From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I am your host, Sean Fazende, riding shotgun as he does each and every Friday as Andre Johnson.
Junior.
Do not forget the Junior. It's very important to add the JR at the end of his name. But before we get into today's content, be sure to like, share, rate, and review. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button to get the bell notification for when we drop that fire content. And it's a Friday. It's a special Friday in the city of New Orleans. I mean, it sucks outside because it's really hadn't stopped raining in like 3 days, but we're getting closer and closer and closer to this thing being very real. Saints Panthers on Sunday, Fox 8 Football Friday kicks off tonight. So we got a full weekend ahead, and it is here, my friend. So how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. You know, I agree with the Saints. They've been calling it, you know, like the night before Christmas where you can't wait to wake up and see all the presents under the tree. That's kind of how I feel. It felt so good getting together with some friends yesterday and watching some real NFL football. The Chiefs and Ravens with an incredible game last night. We have another one tonight with the Eagles and the Packers.
That's true.
It's just good to have football back on the TV.
It is so good to have football back tonight. So that brings us to our big picture topic today. We are on the doorstep of year number 3 for Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen, a lot of things on the line. There's a lot of important people. 2024 is important for a lot of people inside the organization this year. And I think at the top of that list is Dennis Allen, and I think that's where we wanted to start here today with the big picture.
Definitely. Our big picture item today is what's on the line this season for Dennis Allen and as he approaches his 3rd season in black and gold as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, Sean.
You know, it's funny. He's going into year 3. He's coming off a 9-8 season. You know, Colin Cowherd said he's predicted him to be the first coach fired. There's all this animosity or all this sort of tension based off of, you know, DA's program in New Orleans. But I got to tell you, I've been around him since the offseason. I spent a ton of time, you know, not directly with him, but I was around him a lot during training camp. For a guy that's allegedly on the hot seat, he is incredibly loose. He is incredibly confident. I was out there today. Like I said, I was out there since I've been around him pretty much every day since the end of July. Let's just put it that way. Every single time we've been available to the meet, they've been available to us. I have been there. DA is showing more of his personality lately. Yes, he's got a personality, folks. I know we were all a little surprised at that. But as the years have gone on, he's showing more of his personality. He's cracking jokes with us. He's just more confident in explaining what he's talking about with his team, his guys, his coaches, his quarterback, his offense, whatever. You just certainly sense that sense of comfort with Dennis Allen as he moves into year 3 of the job. The team is without question, made more in his image. More padded practice in training camp than I've seen in the entire prep Sean Payton era. I interviewed Cedric Wilson today. He came out to us in the media room, and it certainly looked like he had the gold pants on with the pads on. So they may have actually had a padded practice today. It looked that way. I don't know if that was 100% certain, but it certainly looked that way. He's got a new offense that is run first. He's got what was the biggest free agent signing? Chase Young, a defensive player. It is definitely his team. There's no doubt about that. It is. I mean, we kind of said that going into last year. It felt more like his team. It is definitely there this year. Maybe that's why he does feel more comfortable, because this team is made in his image. It is the closest to what he wants in terms of how he wants his team to look, feel, and just play. Cool. All cool. But that also means, or at least should mean, that this is it. This is it. You got to give us, not us personally, but us, the organization, the fan base, a reason to believe in your vision or your direction. It is year number 3. First 2 years weren't terrible, but they weren't good enough. Not even close. They've missed the playoffs the last 2 years, 3 straight years if you count the final year of the Sean Payton era. So it's now, and you have no more room. You've changed quarterbacks. You've changed defensive staffs. You've now changed offensive staffs. This is all you. Everything is yours. You are at the top of the organization, calling the shots in your image, and they have given you everything you have wanted, everything you have asked for. There is no more, well, I need this, well, I need that. Not that he was like that, but they have done a lot to make sure he is being put in the best position to possibly succeed because the organization wants to see him succeed. This is not a sabotage situation. I keep telling that to people when they ask me about Dennis Allen. Y'all don't understand. They want to see him do well. It's not like they're trying to run him out of town. That's not happening. They want to see him do well. All that to say simply this. The question is this, because we've been bringing this up a lot on all of our shows on Fox 8 if you watched. Is it playoffs or bust for Dennis Allen? And I hope people don't misinterpret when I say this because that's a very specific question, playoffs or bust. I don't believe so. I think if they go 9-8 and have a year like they did last year, come up on the doorsteps of the postseason again, I think he's coming back. They go 8-9. I don't think it's as clear, but I do think I could see Mickey Loomis talking himself into bringing him back because they like him. They want to see him do well. Now, that's where I draw the line. Anything more than 9 losses, 10 losses or more, got to go. Got to go. That's where it's got to be when it comes to Dennis Allen. So that's what's on the line for Dennis Allen. Made in your image, everything you wanted, now you have to do it.
Yeah, when you talk about what's on the line for Dennis Allen, every coach who's coached in the NFL has gotten a shot, one chance. Mm-hmm. Every now and then, pretty often actually, coaches get a second chance. Dennis Allen's first chance was in Oakland with the Raiders. 4-12 his first year there, 4-12 his second year there, 0-4 when they let go of him in the middle of his third season there. Came to the New Orleans Saints, played a big role in turning this Saints defense around because I remember back in my day when I was in high school and watching the Saints, it was a super-powered offense, but they were going to give up 30 points a game on defense. Mm-hmm. Dennis Allen, as the defensive coordinator here, completely changed that narrative and made the Saints defense a unit to be respected and a unit to be feared. Mm-hmm. Now he gets his second chance as head coach here, 7-10 the first season, 9-8 the second season, missing the playoffs both times. You don't always get a third chance. So that's what's on the line for Dennis Allen. He got his first chance in Oakland. This is his second chance right now. If Dennis Allen has actually never been in the playoffs as a head coach in 5 seasons. If he misses it again this year, especially if he misses it and it's not even close, like you said, if he's 7-10, 6-11, I think that Dennis Allen is coaching for his head coaching career right now. I think there will be a lot of teams say this if this doesn't work out in New Orleans who would be willing to bring him in as a DC and have him hope that he can do for their defense what he did in New Orleans for this defense. But as a head coach, this might be Dennis Allen's last shot to say, hey, I can lead a team to the promised land. Forget championship right now. I can get a team to the playoffs. I can get a team in a position where they can compete. And like you said, he doesn't have many excuses. He brought in his guys, his coaching staff, his quarterback. This team is built in his image. Now he's got to go out there and he's got to win.
You can probably remove the word might be coaching for his head coaching career because if it doesn't work out here as a head coach, he's not getting the third opportunity. Because if it doesn't work out here, it would have meant he didn't get to the postseason. And that would have been, like you said, was it 6 or 7 guys, 6 years without a postseason appearance. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't. If it doesn't work out here and he was hired somewhere else, the only other situation would be if he was somewhere else and that head coach got fired and it needs someone as an interim to step up and be the interim coach and he was able to run the table, something like that. That is we can way far ahead of ourselves. But I also agree with you that if he were to somehow get fired and probably be done when it comes to head coaching opportunities, not probably, he would be done when head coaching opportunities. You might have a line out the door of people wanting to hire him as a DC because he's that good. He's a top 2 or 3 defensive mind in the NFL, and we've seen that with the Saints defenses over the years, and even the Saints defenses as he's been head coach. And they've even added more reinforcements on that side of the ball. So what's on the line for Dennis Allen in 2024? Everything. The question is, where is the line of, okay, you can't get below this? Because here's the other thing. All he's got to do is touch the playoffs and he's back. That's the other thing. It's not like he's got to make a run in the playoffs. All he's got to do is touch the playoffs and he's back. All he's got to do is come close to the playoffs with a decent winning record, and I think he's back. But you start dipping below 500, then you start giving yourself, and then you start giving the organization more and more reasons to say, you know what, we're just kind of stuck in a rut here. We think he's a good coach, but it's probably time to move on and just turn this organization over to someone else. So, yeah, there is a lot riding on Dennis Allen, a lot riding on this season for Dennis Allen. And I think I can only go by what I see. And I try to relay this as much as possible on this podcast because this is probably the most space that I have to really kind of let this breathe a little bit because I am a big feel the vibe out in the locker room guy. And I kind of feel like I've been around long enough to where I can kind of have a little bit of intuition and kind of sense where things are at. Players are loose. The head coach is loose, man. I can recall back in 2013, the first year Peyton was back after the 2012 suspension, he was so uptight. And that Friday before the game, I mean, we must have gotten calls about certain routine things getting to the Dome from Saints PR about what we could and couldn't do and how much more. And then I remember getting to the stadium and walking on the field with my credential, and every single security guard stopped me to check. It was like one of those things where you could just tell the head coach was uptight and he was just leaning on everybody and then when the game ended, it was like, whew, thank goodness. My point is, I'm not feeling that right now with Dennis Allen. And, I think back to the year one with Dennis Allen where it was almost like too laid back. It was like, all right, he does realize he's a head coach now.
Yeah.
Last year, I think there was some excitement because of where the division was and with Derek Carr, and it just didn't really connect. And now as crazy as it sounds, I mean, I see a guy that's loose and kind of coaching like, not carefree, but he just doesn't seem like the stress of whatever would be on the outside for year number 3 and potentially getting fired or being on the hot seat. It doesn't seem like it's bothering him right now. Now let's talk in week 6 if they're 1-5, but as they enter the 2024 season, I'm just not sensing the same sense of anxiety that I sensed with the winningest head coach in Saints history.
Yep.
No, if you're listening, you may be like, well, maybe he needs to have a little bit of that. Maybe so. But we're never going to know until this thing gets rolling, and that's why I'm so anxious for Sunday.
Yeah, and we talked about it last podcast when we were talking about Derek Carr. Very similar situation between the two, but it's important for DA to get off to a fast start this season. Mm-hmm. You said through those first 6 games, and we've named them, Carolina, Dallas, Philly, Atlanta, Kansas City, and Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. You said it's important that at least they have a 3-3 record through those first 6 games. I said I think that those first games will be pretty rough. It's a possibility they're 1-5, 2-4 after those first games.
Yeah.
If you're a head coach that's coaching for your head coaching career and you start off 1-5, that's not a great situation to be in. It is very important for DA to build some momentum early, to start 3-3 as the mark that you
That's always been mine.
Yeah.
I said 3-3. They got to be 3-3. If they're 3-3, I think they got a good shot at the playoffs. I really do.
Exactly. Like I was talking to one of my friends. He was at a restaurant over the weekend, and he said Dennis Allen was in there, and pretty much everybody in the restaurant was coming up. Hey, we love you, DA. Good luck this season. We're looking forward to it. You start off 1-5. That might not be the same conversation in that
You might not be going to
restaurant.
many restaurants. All right, I want to, if that's the case, I want to just get to this really quick. And then we'll get into a few other things before we wrap it up here, making it a quick one on this Friday here so y'all can get to y'all weekend. Injury report came out.
Yep.
Jalen Ford, Dallin Holker, DeMarco Jackson, Colin Sanders all out. Dallin Holker is the one that concerns me. I thought he'd be back by now. And I'm thinking of tight ends. You got Taysom, you got Foster, you got Jawan. You may need to bring up one other player that maybe Jacobson or someone could come up from the practice squad, or there was another guy they signed from another team. Willie Gay Jr. was limited all week. He's questionable. Kind of feels like he's going to play. Sal DeVary's questionable. And A.T. Perry, who hadn't practiced the last 2 days and apparently has a cast on his hand, is questionable. Hand injury.
Not
For a
good
receiver, I don't know. Ian Thomas, the tight end, and Tommy Trimble, both out for Carolina. So I want to add one more thing to this before we move on. I was finally able to get to some Bryce Young tape this week. The Saints should not expect the same wide-eyed, scared rookie. Like, he looked very comfortable in that drive he played. He looked very comfortable. Now, I think part of that is because he's got a much better offensive line.
Yep.
You'll see a film study on Sunday. So my point is, and this, I hope they don't have to say this, but you would think that the professional would know, but if you're expecting last year's Carolina, that is worrisome to me. You do not expect last year's Carolina. This team is improved, and it's week 1. Anything can happen. So this is not going to be an easy game for the Saints.
Definitely not. I mean, the whole thing last year with Bryce Young, he didn't have an offensive line. He doesn't have any weapons. He didn't have much of a rushing game. Well, they drafted the number 1 running back in the draft. They completely revamped that offensive line. You bring in Deontay Johnson from Pittsburgh. You draft Xavier Legette from South Carolina. That offense is a lot better. Bryce Young only played in 1 preseason game, but he looked really good in the 1 preseason game that he played. Last year, it felt like especially when teams would put pressure on him and when teams would blitz, he would kind of panic, forget what to do. He'd get antsy, and you saw that in both the games that the Saints played against him last year because the Saints were able to pressure him pretty well. A lot of people expect Bryce Young to be better this season. There's really all the excuses that people made for Bryce Young last year, no talent around him, bad head coach. You got a new head coach. You got a new OC. You got a lot of talent around you. I know you mentioned Ian Thomas and Tommy Tremble as 2 tight ends being down. They just drafted Jatavian Sanders out of Texas, a big athletic tight end. He'll be the one starting. He's a talented player. So, yeah, this definitely isn't the same team that went 2-15 last year. They lost a little bit on defense. That defense that used to be one of the best in the league is kind of taking a step back, but they still do have playmakers on there. J.C. Horn will be out there, so we'll see. This is definitely a better Carolina team than last season. It's definitely not a cakewalk if you're the New Orleans Saints.
No doubt. So buckle up. I mean, be ready. It's an NFC South matchup, so if you win, it kind of counts double. If you lose, it kind of counts double. So, I think they got to go 4-2, or at the very least 3-3 in the NFC South. Other things, what else we got? Well, college football.
Yeah,
we have LSU
Nichols.
Look, if they can win 80-0, no one's going to be impressed. But if they somehow somewhat stumble and struggle a little bit, then there's going to be a lot of panic. But look, LSU's going to beat Nichols. But Tulane and Kansas State down here in New Orleans, that's an interesting matchup. K-State can run the ball. They have Avery Johnson. You like what Darian Mensah is for Mensah, right? For Tulane? Yeah, for Tulane, the young quarterback. It's an early kickoff. I know Tulane's 8.5-point dogs. Is that right?
Yep, and they did not like learning that they were the underdogs.
Perfect. I'm going green wave upset, man. I'm going wave upset. I don't know. I like the way that it kind of shapes up here. I'm going wave in an upset.
I'm feeling the wave as well. Obviously, they played Southeastern week 1. We know Southeastern isn't the same caliber of team that Kansas State is, but we've seen Darian Mensah at practice. Darian Mensah, for you guys who don't know, about 3-4 months ago, we were talking about Kai Horton, who was there backing up Michael Pratt, and we were talking about Ty Thompson, who transferred in from Oregon. Those were the 2 who were going to be having the quarterback battle to see who would be the heir to Michael Pratt at Tulane. Darian Mensah, a freshman out of California, comes in, and next thing you know, he races past both of those guys, and he's the new starter at Tulane. He looked good against Southeastern. I feel confident with him against Kansas State. He's got really good receivers. He's got one of the better running backs in the entire nation. I'm not worried about that offense. Kansas State has a quarterback by the name of Avery Johnson.
Avery Johnson, you know who Avery Johnson.
Yeah, Avery Johnson. He might be family, So, man, Avery Johnson is a baller. Avery Johnson chased Will Howard out, and he's the reason he's at Ohio State right now. So I'm looking at the Tulane defense on Saturday. Can they contain and slow down one of the better quarterbacks in the entire NCAA? If they can do that, then hey, anybody who's taking a plus 8 points, plus 8.5, whatever it is for Tulane right now, you might be in store for a payday.
Ooh. Gonna be fun. Gonna be a fun weekend up ahead. If you are in New Orleans tonight, check out the debut of Fox 8 Football Friday at 10:35. Shaw and Carr playing on the West Bank. Game of the week should be electric. It's rainy out there. I'm very, very curious to see how that impacts everything, not just there, but around the entire area when it comes to high school football. But my friend, we are off and running on this football season. Anything else for us today?
Nope, I'm excited. Let's get it.
All right, let's get it going. That's Andre Johnson Jr. I'm Sean Fazende. We'll catch you guys next time on Overtime.